Ladies and gentlemen, Power is over. But that does not mean for one instant of a second that the fun is over. Without a doubt, you are here because the power is out. So stick around, because it's PowerrrOut. Yeah, it's PowerrrOut.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to PowerrrOut on Love Wrestling, your reaction to all things NWA on Tuesdays. My name is Zach Ralph. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're joining us live, whether you're watching the replay on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, or whether you're listening to the replay on podcast. However you're tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. My co-host today is an absolute pillar of what you might call the wrestling community. She's co-owner of Bell to Bells. She's a contributor to I am so sorry. I've been having a cough all day. Contributor to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Kristen Ashly. Kristen, thank you so much for being a part of the show on PowerrrOut.
Thank you for having me. And take a sip of water.
Yeah, I apologize. That was not the most opportune moment. I don't off the show with such things. Yeah. So thanks so much for doing the show. It's normally when we do a reaction to Power, it's not this kind of format that we actually enjoyed this evening. We enjoyed Power Surge, which was more of a recap. And not to say it was bad, but it wasn't exactly a recapper's delight, so to speak.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd even call it a recap. I mean, they based on a few things, and it was a lot of replay promos, but it was you already watched everything recap, I guess.
Yeah. Like they peppered in some new stuff, and the stuff was of substance as well. But just not a typical episode of Power. But we're still but there's still stuff of substance to discuss. And again, the show kicks off. We get a greeting from Joe Galley and from May Valentine. I was so happy to see May Valentine stretch beyond the roles of interviewer. I thought she was going to be great. I was really looking forward to see what she was going to do at this commentary booth, even though it didn't really turn out as such. But all the same, show kicks off. Got a very big retro feel, a lot of fun. We revisit Nick Aldis's promo from last week stating that Strictly Business is actively recruiting, and it's not going to be limited to the NWA roster. There's the hot topic in pro wrestling right now, of course, is the Forbidden Door. Putting you on the spot, if you could, send anyone to Strictly Business, who would you add?
I don't know. I guess it'd be nice to see some Team Taz over there. Brian Cage, I think, would be a really good addition to that. I think they need the muscle. Strictly Business is, I wouldn't say they're all talk, but they're mostly talk. So it'd be nice to get somebody that maybe isn't so promo heavy and just does some of the heavy lifting. So somebody like Brian Cage would be really cool. It looks like they're going for titles, all of them, right? So maybe somebody like Darby Allin. I don't know how well he would fit with them, frankly, but if you're going with title holders, maybe some past title holders would be cool too.
Absolutely. And before we went on air, we were talking about how this is more of like an aged roster compared to what they had in the past. A Darby Allin, even if maybe not necessarily part of Strictly Business, someone with a bit of a more youthful vigor would be very well met in in NWA. We got a bit of dialogue happening in the comments between Mr. Warren Hayes saying, yeah, followed up by Love Wrestling being represented by Spencer, of course. Mm-hmm. Hi, Spencer. Hi, Warren. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, putting you over. Everyone, geez, we're getting a real party in here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys have thoughts on what's happening on NWA this week, please let us know. If you want to throw your offerings of who you think should join Strictly Business, we are all for it. I mean, I'm having trouble thinking about this because I've been thinking about it since last week when Nick Aldis cut the promo in the first place. Because it's hard. Like you said, they're a very promo heavy group. And maybe I'd like to see Royce Isaacs return to the group. I thought he was well suited. He had a more understated comedic demeanor that somehow complemented the rough and tumble nature of everyone else in the group. And I don't know, that's someone I'd like to see coming back, I suppose. But at this point, all we can do is speculate.
Right. I did want to say, I think it's funny that he's doing this like open challenge essentially for this open recruitment for a faction, which traditionally we see them going after specific people. So it felt a little weird, like you don't have anybody in mind, Aldis. Like you don't have anyone you want to go after, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
They kind of cut a lot of like the substance of his promo last week, and he said a lot of good stuff, such as like knowing the difference between being great and being good, and how, you know, he just wants the cream of the crop to join his group. And, you know, I think that could be a good enough motivation. But, you know, when they have Chris Adonis, the new national champion at their beck and call, and he's not good enough, leaves you to wonder what the ultimate motivations might be in this whole recruitment process.
Yeah.
Yeah. After that one, after that segment, we get PowerrrOut at the commentary booth with May and Joe. May brings up how PowerrrOut showed up with a pride flag at NWA 70, but PowerrrOut kind of like changes the subject. He talked about how he had to go to Japan to really earn his way back into NWA, because pre-hiatus he was absent from NWA programming, which is unfortunate. He had a hell of a promo. I did not know like PowerrrOut was this good at a promo. Like, what did you think of this segment?
Yeah, I had to go back because I was like, well, where has he been? All Japan. He's been in All Japan. And he was incredibly heated. And it kind of got there. Like you could tell he was annoyed, but at the very end, it was like practically screaming in your face. But it was effective because it made you go, whoa, this guy is serious about having to work. I don't know how he worked his way back in, frankly, but it was a really good promo from him. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, like I have seen PowerrrOut here and there, but now that he's on a program that I watch regularly, I'm really excited to see how he develops and how I get, understand his character a little more regularly and see how he evolves. I'm very excited to see how PowerrrOut does, and I'm certainly not the only one. Mr. Warren Hayes, I like PowerrrOut tons. He is absolutely fantastic. Not much bad you can say about Mr. PowerrrOut. Also from Spencer over here, PowerrrOut is probably the nicest person in the world who can also kill a brick. Well, that is an analogy. Mr. J, our introduction man himself, potential subject of poetry of a promo. Ooh, I like this. Poetry of a promo, of course, where Mr. J reimagines classic wrestling promos in a spoken word poetry environment. So,
oh wow, that is very specific and awesome.
It is very specific and awesome. He does really fun stuff. Mr. J, keep that in your back pocket because I think that would be a lot of fun. Next up was the most interesting use of recap footage by NWA, and very strange sentence to say, but they weren't using NWA footage on this one. They were revisiting the St. Paddy's Day street fight between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, courtesy, of course, of All Elite Wrestling. Up until now, at the pay-per-view Back for the Attack, they mentioned the street fight that Thunder Rosa was in. Later on, they mentioned Britt Baker, but there was still no concrete references to All Elite Wrestling. And as that continues to grow, I would be very excited to see a potential long-term partnership between AEW and NWA. Yeah,
and they have skated around it. I believe Tony Khan, or I believe Cody Rhodes said Tony Khan has this like kind of friendship with Billy. William, I don't know what he calls himself these days, Billy. So, I mean, it's not unheard of. And I think it's pretty telling that they use that footage. It also could be because, Thunder Rosa, it's only been 3 episodes of actual matches in, maybe this would be the 4th, I guess, technically. So maybe they didn't have a lot of footage that they wanted to use and they really wanted to push Thunder Rosa's on her roster. She's really great. But I'm willing to bet that they worked with each other, even if they don't necessarily say that, just because they are friends. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And even before AEW and before Tony Khan got into the picture, Cody Rhodes shows that he is willing to work with companies like NWA. Of course, they had the classic championship match between Aldis and Cody Rhodes back at the original All In. And, if reports are to be believed, maybe we won't see a third part in a potential trilogy between those two, which I think would be unfortunate. But if the door is open between AEW and NWA, that can only mean good things for us viewers, and I think for the talent involved as well. Have to agree with you there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We return to the commentary booth again. This time, Camille is joining May and Joe. Camille is upset that that everyone is talking about Thunder Rosa so much when they should be talking about her. Camille says that Thunder Rosa does a great enough job hyping herself up and doesn't need Joe and May's assistance in that regard. When she's asked about spoiling the tag team match from a few weeks ago, all she really has to say is that she just decided to make the match better. She also says she's not really concerned about her placement in Strictly Business. All in all, I'm really happy that Camille is getting all this promo time, because pre-hiatus, they gave her she gave the silent treatment whenever she had a microphone in hand, which was part of her character. I think she's a really good promo, but she didn't really give us much substance. NWA didn't give us much substance, I should say, in her motives for breaking up a tag team match.
Yeah. And it was funny because I was watching it with Warren, and I was like, do you remember when Camille never talked? Like, wasn't that the thing? So it was very odd to see her really going. Yeah, and I want to say May kind of was just asking the same questions over and over again, so maybe that's why she was getting a little frustrated. But she was like, she kept focusing on Nick and not understanding why he's recruiting, but then saying like, well, I don't take it personally. Well, how do you not? And then never really answering like why yeah, you're right, like never really answered like why did you interrupt this tag team match. It was all about I'm here, let's talk about me, and not everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And like what makes it just like even more jarring is the match that she had at Back for the Attack with Thunder Rosa was great. It was a really good match, but it ended like decisively. There was no contention, there was no controversy. Camille beat Thunder Rosa with 2 spears, 1, 2, 3. It's not like she had unfinished business. It's not like something what she needed to, I don't know, put her final stamp on it. She just ruined a great tag team match a couple weeks ago. She had a great face-off with Genocide, who I never heard of before, but I'm like, even just their face-off, I am already looking forward to that match. But all in all, I want to see Camille have more to work with.
Yeah, and maybe that's the point, right? Is that they're trying to give her a feud without Serena being there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the thing is, Serena is also on AEW, but she's got the titles, so I don't know what Serena's doing, honestly. But maybe she's busy with other stuff, so they're trying to give Camille a feud. And the sad reality is that their women's roster is so like Sky Blue, Genocide, those women that have been in those matches, those are pulled, frankly, mostly from Mission Pro. So Thunder Rosa is bringing her girls in, and that's awesome for them. That's amazing. But like, then we need to get some depth into the roster. Otherwise, yeah, then Camille's pulling these moves that don't make sense because it's the only way they can really go.
Yeah, absolutely. Serena Deeb's absence has been brought up a couple times of the show, and I maybe should have like researched it a little more, but I think it's possible she's injured as well.
Well, maybe.
Which might, that just adds to an additional obstacle that NWA has to deal with, because Serena Deeb, she makes a great champion, but she has to be present, and there's obviously obstacles in the way of that happening, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
And to make things a little worse, I felt like NWA was they were off on the right foot when it came to their women's division, which is not something I really expected to be able to say about NWA. That's not exactly, they haven't exactly been strong in booking their women's division in the past. We've had great matches, but the past couple of weeks, I was like, finally like, oh, I'm actually interested in what's going to be happening.
Yeah.
But then I don't know. I feel like they're losing momentum on that, which is disappointing.
Right. I believe half their women aren't really even wrestling, frankly. They're like wannabe managers.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah.
That's a good point. Right now, Melina and Taryn Terrell are just like kind of contesting for Thunder Rosa's, I don't know, clientship or motives will be revealed hopefully sooner than later, because I don't want the women's division in NWA to lose momentum. You know what? That's a good point. Manager Wars, says Warren Hayes. That's always a strong angle, and I think that would suit NWA just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. We go to commercial. Nick Aldis is playing with the vintage or retro styled Nick Aldis figure. And I'm only bringing this up because that figure was fighting an Ultimate Warrior, which I had as a kid. So I popped big for that.
Okay.
Probably the only time I will pop for the Ultimate Warrior, but
yeah, I mean,
still guilty. Returning from the commercial, Joe Galley is now joined by Velvet Sky on the commentary booth to call Jeremiah Plunkett versus Mims. Mims is such a sweetheart. I just love seeing him whenever he's on my screen. He just makes me happy. The commentary does a really great job setting the table that this is a student versus teacher match, that Jeremiah Plunkett is Mims's wrestling coach. They do a really good job here. I do think that it would have been great if they had a couple moments like at Kyle Davis's podium to talk about the match going in. Like this was a recap show that didn't even go for a full hour. I think they could have had a couple moments to chat about why they're wrestling and their previous history.
Yeah, I think it went 27 minutes, the show. Yeah, and for me, so I sort of know Plunkett. I mean, just because he is a vet, but I'm very, very new to Mims. And they were really good. I mean, it was the only match on the show. So they could have probably talked a little bit more about it, or maybe had some after match promos, longer. But they have similar styles, so it's pretty obvious that they are a teacher or student. That was pretty obvious from right to the get-go. And they're strong boys, so that was fun. But they're also clearly really flexible in their moves, so that was great. For me, like I know traditionally NWA has been very promo heavy, and so that's pretty much what they're known for. For me, this is why I watch NWA, are these like matches that maybe don't have a ton of story, but they're always pulling out really good matches. It's always very retro, old school style matches. Just most of them are clean, but they're always entertaining. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh, cool match. And it didn't last very long because it was a 27-minute show. But this is the stuff that I watch NWA for, is the matches, frankly.
Absolutely. And it was a hell of a match. Like you said, they just complemented each other so well, and certainly can probably be attributed to their student-teacher relationship. My notes, like just good, hard-hitting stuff. Everything they did looked good. I wasn't crazy about the finish, I'll admit. I thought it was very strange. Mims just started running the ropes about 6 times, allowing... Yeah, it allowed Plunkett to get back to his feet. He has a small rally, but Mims just fights back. He hits him with the great name for a finishing move, the hookup, and he just gets a 1, 2, 3 on that. Again, I was happy with that match, but if I'm nitpicking, I would have liked a stronger finish, certainly.
Yeah.
We get to the next segment, which kind of leads to a second mystery box talking point of the night. May is talking about her best friend, Saul Renaro, and how he is seeking a tag team partner to challenge for Aaron Stevens and Kratos' tag team championship. Joe Galley grills May. He asks if she has heard if Saul has found a partner. She says he has, that it's a former champion, and we are left with nothing but speculation from there. Once again, putting you on the spot, who do you pair with Saul Renaro?
I'm like I don't even know old NWA. I mean, all I've ever known is Aldis. I feel like I wasn't watching NWA before Powerrr came out, so I'm not even sure who would be an X, who would still be able to wrestle at least,
Yeah, I mean, again, the forbidden door is open, so it doesn't necessarily need to be someone within the roster. I like this. Spencer via Love Wrestling on Twitch. Cody, that would be interesting. That would be kind of interesting to see him kind of step into Nick Aldis's territory, even if it's not for direct confrontation just yet.
Yeah,
I could be down with that. Also, from the comments, Ed Fry's Tim Storm. I like that. I like that very much.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I see
it's more likely than Cody, but I feel like it's because Cody, well, he's got other things going on. And also, when's the last time Cody's really been a tag team wrestler? I mean, maybe that's the point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe a big surprise. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like, do you really need to do all so much of it's shared, right? I'd like to see NWA just build their own roster, frankly, and so maybe Tim Storm would be a really cool comeback. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're in with another interesting one. Janela. Okay.
Okay.
I think I do agree with what you're saying, Kristen. I think it should be someone in-house, but
Yeah.
But also, I'm also the same mind that NWA just needs a real like kick to get going. I think they need a big splash, much like they did at the season finale, or not the season finale, but the end of their first pay-per-view pre-hiatus. They had a big moment of someone making a big splash after the championship match. Oh wow, we're just getting a whole bunch of speculation in the comments. Chris Parrish with or FTR. Okay, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. But okay, Warren, Alex Marvez, Tully Blanchard. Come on, guys. Now you're just being silly. Those are all great guesses. Oh.
I mean, frankly, Saul Renaro is a bit of a comedic act. I haven't really seen him have the chance. I haven't had the chance to see him like get serious or however he works within the ring. So I don't know. Maybe Tully Blanchard might work. Might have a fun little juxtaposition there. But all we can do is speculate at this at this junction. Right. Okay, this is the last one I'm showing because I could go through these comments all night. Colt Cabana, yeah, he was absolutely wonderful in his work in NWA. But once again, we are left wondering. After this, we are left with we go to a rolling recap of all the major plot points in recent weeks. Like I'm speaking in bullet points here. Pope's program as the TV champion, roster earning a TV title shot, a dissension amongst the tag team champs, Thunder Rosa's celebration tag team match ruined, Adonis attacking Murdoch, Adonis becoming national champion, and Pope defending TV title. Again, all really cool stuff, all stuff I've seen in recent weeks, and I didn't really need to pay for to see it again.
And also, like, there's so much, like you have a 27-minute program. You can either give somebody the bang for the buck and cut this list in half and actually, like, I remember watching it going, is this a recap? Because it doesn't feel like it's recapping. It feels like it's just a highlight show. And then, so you could do that, or you could actually make it like a 45-minute show again and then actually recap it. Because I see some value in that for people who've missed it and don't want to watch the whole thing. But it didn't feel, it just felt like this rolling highlight reel, and that was it.
Yeah, there was a lack of identity in this program. And I think this little reel just really emphasized that. Agree with you 100%. Like a show like Power Surge, as it was presented to us tonight, I think it belongs more on YouTube or some sort of like freemium provider, because it's also like a really good entry point too. Because like, if I'm a new NWA fan and I saw this, if I do watch the following week, I'm going in with no questions. I understand what's happening. That's a very valuable tool to offer, I think. But offering it to the people who are already paying and watching NWA, just it was a misstep, I think.
Yeah. Maybe if they added another match or two.
Yeah.
It was just like a spotlight match and didn't have really any terms or consequences to it, then maybe, but that's not what they did. They just did a highlight reel for people who are paying, right?
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's all they had to do. One more match, and it didn't have to be anything of substance, didn't have to be for Contender, but they went in another direction. When we return from this this highlight reel, May and Joe are joined by NWA champion Nick Aldis. May asks Aldis who he thinks the next challenger will be. Nick feels that there's a whole pool of talent who are on the cusp of being a contender, but not one person is breaking through. Going down the roster, is there anyone you would like to see coming up for Nick Aldis?
Oh man. I think Fred Rosser has a chance. I'd like to see him more. Frankly, he's like what, 40, 41, but he's still on the younger side of this roster. So that's and he's hungry. He did a really good job against Pope. So I feel like he would be, and also, let's be honest, if you're coming to NWA and you don't know everybody, this might be a person that you know the most just because of where he used to work. So it could just be a a way to give them a spotlight that they didn't have. So, you know, I'm really glad that he's wrestling. He hasn't wrestled much in the last couple of years, here and there, you know, so I'm glad that he's on NWA, and I think it's time to give the guy a chance. I mean, he's wrestled forever, so
absolutely. Yeah, Fred Rosser, I got to agree. Like he's been showing me something that I didn't know he had. The week before his match with the Pope, he had a hell of a promo, and I was like I was just transfixed. I didn't know he had a promo that good, and it was like really more of a heel too, which again I really didn't expect, and I thought he was wonderful. All this continues. He starts talking more about how not having a contender affords him the opportunity to really focus on his other affairs, such as factionhood within Strictly Business. He confirms that Chris Adonis is not a full-fledged member of the group. He says that Camille and present members are not at risk of being ostracized from the group so long as they continue to be excellent. And he wraps up the evening, very big change of tone, very sincere, bottom of his heart to NWA viewers and Fight TV subscribers. You're welcome to the paying audience. Man, like, you know, we've already speculated about Strictly Business, so we're not going to trudge that back up. But Nick Aldis, man, maybe the most underappreciated promo guy in the business, I think.
Oh yeah, he's holding up NWA on his back. He frankly really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's never more clear than when he's doing a promo, because like he's clear, he's dynamic, and most importantly, I believe every word he's saying.
He comes off like the worst boss ever. You know? And that's what he's supposed to be playing, right? And then you just feel it and you're like, oh, okay, Nick, calm down. Yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. Aldis. Right away, Mr. Aldis.
Right.
Whatever you need. It's hard to give a fair rating to Power Surge, but did Power Surge leave you wanting to watch Power next week?
Because it's a recap show, it's hard to say. I am, as somebody who, frankly, I'll be completely honest, has not been paying attention 1000% to the show. I am interested in like what happens with Camille and Thunder Rosa. I am interested in what happens with Nick Aldis and Strictly Business. You know, obviously, mystery tag team partner is going to be really interesting. I think they've left enough open doors to make me want to keep paying attention.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was for what it was a good episode. I think, like I mentioned, I think Power Surge would be a great entry point provided on YouTube or somewhere else where it's more accessible to people who aren't already subscribing. Right. There was a lot of uncertainty about what this program was, and admittedly, that might just be a lapse in my own understanding. But again, concise overview. I think the program has value, and you know, just get it off my subscription and let me pay for new content, and I have no problems. We're about to sign off on this week's PowerrrOut, but before you tune out, listeners and viewers, please stay on this broadcast, because immediately after, members of the Love Wrestling team will be reacting to this week's NXT. So please hang around for that. And of course, Kristen, before we let you go, please let the audience know where they can follow you on the World Wide Web.
You can find me on the interwebs on Twitter at Kristen Ashly. This is exactly how it's spelled over there. And then at Bell to Bells too, as well. Go to belltobells.com for all your women's wrestling news. And then keep paying attention to PWI. I've got some really cool stuff coming up, including a women's wrestling recurring column. So there'll be some really neat stuff coming.
Wonderful. Once again, thanks so much for being a part of PowerrrOut. Thank you to everyone who's viewing and listening. And we're going to be right back with Love Wrestling Reacts, this week's NXT.
Hello, friends. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking around, and welcome to Love Wrestling React. Zach, thank you for the warm introduction. Kristen, thank you for making your first appearance on Love Wrestling. Unfortunately, Zach, again, beating me to another debut of someone I consider a friend, but also someone who is a great content creator. As she mentioned, go and give some support to Bell to Bells. Give some support to her, and of course, give some support to Mr. Warren Hayes. He's just a great individual. Thank you for sticking around in the chat. And, of course, thank you to my two co-hosts for this evening, two of my partners in crime throughout this WrestleMania week. It's JPJ and Parrish. Parrish, I'll go to you first. Usually we start with sort of the clockwise rotation of things, so we're going to go the other way with her. How you doing, friend?
I'm doing well. It's nice to actually finally see a good post-Mania wrestling match in WWE.
Yeah, that's a fair point to make. You know, I can't say I was all that excited about Raw, but we talked about that plenty. That was then, this is now, and to steal WWE's phrase, this is forever, right? Good to hear, man, though. JPJ, how are you, friend? It's good to see you again. Good to see you, too. I am doing well. I thought NXT was very good tonight. I thought it was a great show. Yeah. Super good. Not to harp on what Parrish said, but I feel watching this show, I felt like how I normally feel watching the Raw after Mania. So this kind of made up for, what we were all feeling after watching what we saw last night. Some lost time, some missteps, some whatever you want to call it.
Is it a little weird that NXT had more surprise visits than Monday Night Raw right after Mania? Isn't that kind of dumb?
You know what? I agree. I wasn't a huge fan of how little surprises there were on Monday night, but you've got fans for NXT. That's a big difference.
One thing I wanted to actually say about Raw, wouldn't it have been a better idea if WWE actually kept Raymond James Field open for a little bit and had Raw with some fans? Wouldn't have that made it feel a little bit bigger and better?
Yes, but I also feel, and I'm just pulling off my memory here, so I'll have to fact check myself after the show, but I believe that they had a contract not issued. Baseball's coming back sooner rather than later. I don't think they could have renewed it, but
baseball's not in that stadium. It's only football.
Well, again, I'm just pulling off the top of my head. So if somebody wants to fact check me, feel more than free to.
And it's the Buccaneers. Who cares?
That's the Super Bowl champions right there. I knew someone would get there before I did.
He's not on my team anymore, but they got the best player ever playing quarterback down there.
Well, JPJ, touche. JPJ, for being very correct, I'll let you kick this one off, man. Was there anything that you particularly loved? It's a loose recap. I've got the run sheet here, and whenever we need to get back on track, I'll go back and refer to it. But you let us know what you really loved tonight. Let us know where we want to start on tonight's edition of Love Wrestling Reacts.
I mean, I loved a lot about the show. But the thing that sticks out the most to me was the segment with Raquel that ended with Rhea Ripley and Bianca coming back, and that moment with all three of them in the ring with the title, and the callback to the picture that's been kind of, making the rounds with the three of them from, when they were all in NXT. I mean, I think that was the standout moment of the night, but I thought tonight had a handful, if not more,
I was gonna say
significant moments. Yeah. It felt like, and I don't want to, this is an NXT thing, so I don't want to harp on last night too much, but it felt like NXT is going in a fresh new direction. And it felt like watching the Raw after Mania, we were in the same old crap. You know what I mean? Like, not crap, but you know what I mean? Like, it was same old. And then you hit NXT tonight and it's like, oh, it feels like this is new and we're going to an exciting new place,
I have a great analogy.
Was it a whole new world? Because that was my analogy, and I thought
it's kind of like when you flush a toilet and everything's going down, and there's that second of before the water's nice again.
It's analogy.
Like he's a nice water, but what was going down was
that was a bad analogy. No one.
There might be children.
No one liked that analogy. That's exactly it. It's exactly it, Parrish. This is a public platform, of course. Whichever platform you might be tuned on, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. Wherever you're supporting tonight, feel free to hop in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on the show tonight. As David Boyce is, I don't know if he's excited to see you or scolding you for your language there, but giving you the shout out, that's one for you. Congratulations. Now, if you guys are on Twitch, however, I've got this nice little emoticon that we've got here in the corner.
Ooh.
Absolutely. If you guys want to show your support with my nice little smiling face, or again, however you choose to do so on Twitch specifically, you've got fun little stuff like that if you subscribe. So feel more than free to do so. I completely agree with you though, JPJ. That was definitely in a night full of highlights, the highlight for me. There was a lot of great matches too. I know we're going to kick off with a couple of those sooner rather than later.
Oh, yeah.
But Parrish, I'm going to move to you next. What was the highlight of the night, or what was something that particularly stood out for you on this edition of NXT?
Kushida, man. Like, how do you not enjoy that? Like, that was a shocker. Right. Nobody expected, I thought, Santos Escobar to not retain that title. And then they just gave you a big shock. And it was nice. It was everything of what refreshing should be. And you've just created somebody new. You've completely done a 360 and where that division can go. And now we're wondering what's next for Santos Escobar, who has proven within this last week that he is a top guy in NXT. It doesn't matter what title he's fighting for.
And that's a nice place to tie in too, because I think, Killer Cross delivered, or Karrion Kross, delivered his promo off the bat. He's open to all challengers. I don't even really know. The promo itself was what it was. I don't know if it was a good promo.
Yeah,
was it anything special that I'm going to write home about? Not particularly, but what I really liked about it, he didn't seem to be playing the heel side as much as he had over the last little bit. And whether that was just this one promo or not, I'm not 100% certain, but usually WWE does a pretty good job of establishing those dynamics when they want to. Whether it's done heavy-handedly or not is a whole entirely different story, but he did seem to be towing that line, and being a fighting champion and taking on all comers isn't necessarily a heel move, and especially by WWE standards. So I wonder if they're doing that to position him to be challenged by Santos Escobar, because they've had their history in the past. I could see him going back to the well on that again, and happily so. They were fantastic together.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think it's Pete Dunne. I 100%
and I'd love it
think
too. There were a lot of great challengers hopping up in the queue as far as it goes. I was really, really not concerned, but confused as to why Finn Balor didn't appear tonight. Maybe he's poised for a SmackDown appearance, but I'm of the belief that Io's getting called up. I really do think she's getting called up. I was really surprised she wasn't called up on Monday, so I'm hedging my bets on her on Friday night appearance. So that's maybe why I was a little more confused by Finn Balor, because I can't see the both of them coming onto the same night. Is that just me?
So I think it's been pretty much rumored already that Finn Balor is staying on NXT. I've been reading a lot of that online in just the last few days. And again, I go back to, I don't know if it was the POS show or Sunday brunch, because, well, let's face it.
We did a lot.
Yeah. I have a memory of a goldfish, so it's okay.
At the best of times.
Right? And it's still Finding Nemo. It's weird. But
I Dory in that situation sometimes.
Mine. But I said, like, when the draft comes, you always have that shocker of who's going to be that next surprising draft pick. And I think that's still how Io Shirai goes to whether it's Raw or SmackDown, especially with now, correct me if I'm wrong saying your name, but Shirai. Okay.
Sarai.
Oh, Sarai, yeah.
Sarai.
I'm so very excited for
We're going from Shirai to Sarai, and I feel like a nursery rhyme is coming out. But
well, the biggest reason, actually, because I tried to differentiate it myself, was I noticed that it wasn't like Paige's real name. I'm pretty sure it's Sarai. If I'm wrong, again, I apologize 1,000 times. That's why I was saying, is I knew it was a different pronunciation. I know it's a weird connection to make, but I love that they made her look like a star, because admittedly, I don't know much about her. Heck, I'm sitting here struggling on how to pronounce her name, and I feel like a dick every time that happens. But I don't know a ton about her, and I think that over the last few nights, whether you include the appearance in Stand and Deliver and tonight, they've done a really great job of making her feel like a star. I'm intrigued as far as what she's going to do, and I have no prior experience with her. If you guys are in the chat, maybe have some experience with her that we don't hear on Love Wrestling, throw some in the comments. I'm happy to save stuff, happy to watch professional wrestling. And happy to chat it. Joe, do you agree? Big star, big things coming?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm like you said, the way that they've shown her the last 2 times we've seen her, you know that she's gonna be a player the second she pops in. You know, she's gonna matter. We did see, you know, since we're kind of jumping around, we did see another debut tonight of someone who's going to be obviously a big time player in the women's division, interrupting the champion right away. And Frankie Monet, and she deserves that because, you know, Taya, whatever you want to call her, Taya Valkyrie, Frankie Monet, she deserves that spot. She's excellent.
I completely agree, and they made her feel like a big deal right
immediately. If you're interrupting if you're interrupting the champ on their first celebratory, hey, I'm the champ, this is my division now, and you debut like that, automatic top of the division rotation in that, like, yeah. So, and I thought, again, if we're sticking with the women, they made Mercedes Martinez look great tonight. She was layered throughout the show. She gave up a little bit too much offense, I think, in her match, but I understood they were trying to make her opponent look good there too, Jessica Kamea. They were trying to make her look good, so I got that. The end of that match was very decisive, so Mercedes still looked strong as hell, in my opinion. That is a strong division. That is a strong division down there.
I completely agree. Parrish, I'll get to you in a second, but got to give a shout out to Ed. Seriously, I feel like I say it every time, the most positive of ways. You are here every single time we hop on, so thank you for the support, friend. Talking about Karrion Kross, a generic promo delivered well enough. Feels like he will take heel or face without issue. Yeah, and that's the beauty of him. Balor could do it too, and they've done a very good job of it over the last little bit with NXT champions, is sort of walking that line, because you have to, at least in NXT. A lot of people are really trying to establish themselves in that clear role. You need to have those people who are sort of able to tread that line in case somebody pops up, for lack of a better way to put it. Like, you see it, and I know it's by design, right? But if Zoe Stark started taking off a lot quicker, got hot, maybe you need to throw her in the match with Io Shirai, and she needs to play, in Io's case, the heel role more so than she had, right? You've got to have that flexibility in a champion, and they've done it very, very well. And then, Parrish, I'll let you just pick up on the conversation Joe and I were having here, just with the shout out to Ed here as well. Then the great moment after turning Raquel face to open up the opposition pool of heels. Exactly. And even Dakota Kai was one thing that I really noticed throughout. Like, she was very emotional about it. She wasn't playing the traditional heel role as she has in the relationship with Raquel, right? So, Parrish, lots of potential challengers. Who do you want to see if we're going to pick one of them right off the bat? Is it Frankie Monet? Is it Mercedes Martinez, Zoe Stark, or maybe somebody who didn't make an appearance tonight or we haven't named?
Well, I'm going to say, because I have an idea for a Frankie Monet shirt already, and it kind of ties to her past a little bit. No matter what name you want to call her, Frankie Monet is TV. It's solid. I know it's
I don't mind that. I really don't mind that.
But
I'm also very happy that she was able to keep La Güera Loca.
Yes.
I was happy about that as well.
Yes.
And I did wash my laundry today. Thank you.
Congratulations.
One, I don't know Spanish, and two, I didn't really ever watch her much in Impact or anywhere else, so I was just playing along with it being me. But what I love about this is that you can go so many ways. There are so many people you can go with. The one thing I'm not really enjoying is I'm not really enjoying Toni Storm being that, oh, well, we just need a good match out of somebody, so we'll put her in, because I don't want her to get categorized or boxed because she has so much more she can offer that brand. And then you also have like the Shotzi's and the Ember Moons, who I have all the time in the world for. And I think Dakota Kai even is someone that you can't forget about, because WWE has a history of breaking people up. And then you even have Tegan Knox whenever she wants to come back, and she was really starting to hit.
That's a great show. And she's got to be few months out at least, because she was ACL issues again. You're typically a year, but that had to be 6-7 months ago.
And then here's one that I think people are going to sleep on, because I don't think anybody talks NXT UK enough, at some point Kaylee Ray's losing that NXT UK title, and at some point she's coming to NXT. I'm calling it now. And she is going to be money. She is fantastic on every spectrum you want to say. And it's going to be absolutely delightful just to see now that NXT is 2 hours. It's on a different night or not. You like that word?
It's a good one. It brings glee to faces.
Well, and it fits. It's so accurate because the women's division in NXT is by far the best female division in all of pro wrestling. It doesn't matter which way you want to go. NXT has the best female division, and I would love to see a little bit more mix. Just maybe even if it's somebody on the Raw or SmackDown, they don't have anywhere to go. It would be nice to see whether it's maybe a Bayley, a Becky Lynch once in a while, just somebody like those kind of stars coming down just to help promote the stars of NXT a little bit, because that's all they're missing is that next level run.
The thing that sucks though is they're not, like, for me, they're not really able to do it effectively anymore outside of stuff like tonight, which they do with Bianca and they do with Rhea Ripley. The women's tag team championships, when they had them, were the perfect excuse because you did have Sasha Banks come down and establish Io Shirai. You had Charlotte come down and make her presence on the NXT brand or whatever you want to call it. And I know that there were the complaints on Charlotte's end, and hopefully those are rectified with the feud that's coming up right now for her on the main roster. But I think they've tried to do it. The thing that sucks for me right now, though, is like they've just, and most of the time, they've established the brands so clearly from each other that you can't really bring people in, at least on the NXT end, randomly. Like Raw and SmackDown, they throw around haphazardly and to everyone's detriment, really. But at least with NXT, they've made it special when that main roster, again, to use the air quotes with it, talent comes down. I hope they keep that, because anytime they have Parrish, like you're bang on. When Sasha came down, felt special. Charlotte felt special. Tonight felt special for the two coming down, and they were recently on NXT. So I completely agree with you there. I just want to make sure they keep doing well.
Let me drop you with one more name, because I think there's more to it than just a commentating appearance. Mickie James.
But you're going to say Beth Phoenix, but either way, I've got a lot of time
Mickie James would make a lot of sense as the vet in NXT.
Did it for Asuka. That match at TakeOver Toronto was fantastic. Ed throwing in the chat as well, another one who we just don't talk about enough. Xia Li by the end of the year. That's a great shout, man. I'll back that 110%. I'll co-sign it. I will come to the interview and vouch for you on it. I really like that call, man. And if you guys have your calls, and you gals and you non-binary friends out there have calls in the chat, please feel free. We've got about 25 minutes left to chat NXT in a very loose format across YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. Joe, gonna move to you on this one. Talk to me a little bit about Swerve Scott. What are you feeling on him? Are you liking him?
Yes.
Do you dislike him? I think he's been fantastic lately, but I'm just gonna throw the overall conversation at you, friend. What are your thoughts on Swerve?
I like what I'm seeing with Swerve. I thought, even though he didn't end up winning the match in night one, he was the guy that I think, besides, obviously Bronson Reed won, and then he went on to shine in night two. He was the guy that stood out in night one in that gauntlet match. He had a run that was very long. I don't think a lot of people expected him to have that type of run in there. But we've always known that he's really good in the ring. They haven't really given him that push that I think he's finally getting now, which it's nice to see. And I love the studio backdrop that they had in the vignette for him. I thought that was different.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
I was going to point that out too.
I thought it fit the character. Like, I want to see more of that. We know he can go in the ring. I do like the aggressiveness in the ring too. Like, you can actually tell that he's fed up and he's just done with the shit. So he's like, you know what? I'm just going to destroy people, and I'm just I don't care anymore.
And he's another guy, admittedly, that I think WWE did a great job turning him as early as he did, or as they did, excuse me. If you watch his indie work, and admittedly, I've only watched about 10, 15 matches or so, but all of them have been babyface. And he seems like that sort of guy who, I look at Sami Zayn or your Baileys or sort of these. I always bring them up as like the unturnables, is the way I always put it. And Swerve, Maybe didn't hit the ground running in WWE and during his NXT run as a babyface, but by the same measure, I thought that he had that potential to be one of those unturnable baby faces. And since his heel turn, like you guys said, the backdrop and the studio backdrop to it was fantastic. The way he shows emotion through his face is absolutely fantastic. That guy, like you said about his work in the ring, he puts everything behind it, and I absolutely loved it. Parrish, I'll let you talk on Swerve, but I'm going to change the question up a little bit. What are your thoughts on Leon Ruff?
I think Swerve is the perfect person for Leon Ruff to kind of switch from that underdog to somebody that you actually want to see kick some ass. This is a great feud for both guys because it establishes that the new character for Swerve, but it also gives Leon Rush a new direction because that whole, I'm just happy to be here. I'm the new guy. I got lucky. Pretty much like you took Santino Marella's debut and then you kind of just turned the knob up a little bit on it. I think that only works for so long. So I think a guy like Leon Ruff really needs something to really sink his teeth into. And Isaiah Swerve Scott is that. It's just that. And I do think that that studio that we're talking about, I think that's his actual studio because he's pretty heavy on the podcast and whatnot too. So I might be wrong, but I would assume that there's a connection maybe at some point. I know he's very big in that end, especially with the music.
Parrish, trust me, it would not be the first time anyone on this podcast was wrong, nor will it be the last. I like this point as well from Ed, who, again, thank you, friend, for the support. It is appreciated. I won't be able to say that enough. I like them building guys for the NXT Evolve show that keeps getting rumored to be started post-pandemic. Admittedly, I've only really heard rumors about it, but I do agree, and it's a great point in that they do seem to be building guys like a Leon Ruff who would be great on that programmer. Even a Swerve Scott, you want to talk about the Evolve brand for me, holds a lot of weight. If he was to maybe move over there, carry their championship, that would mean something to me. It wouldn't be seen, at least in my eyes, as any sort of demotion or anything like that. So, I agree with you there fully, Ed. Maybe I don't have enough names off the bat that I could throw at you, but maybe that's a topic we can talk about on Sunday brunch as I look a little bit more into that because I'm in the same boat. I've only really heard it as a rumored program.
I'll give you one name that we need to talk more of after his week, Bronson Reed. That guy's been impressive.
Like main event, so for the main event, admittedly, I thought it was a good match. Didn't really have a lot of notes from it outside of Bronson Reed had a great match. He looked absolutely fantastic. And it's been a couple of months. I can't remember which takeover it was, admittedly, but where he showed up in the Bam Bam Bigelow tribute gear. Yep. It was the 6-man ladder match. I think it was either for the North American title or there we go. That was sort of the coming out party. I think a lot of people can point to that as well. But since then, he really hasn't dropped off in any way, shape, or form. I think he's been fantastic. And then I really enjoyed the Dexter Loomis Indy Hartwell stuff. Oh, yeah. I really loved it. Joe, you had a lot there.
I liked it throughout. When she, fainted and was like, and I liked how Loomis, because we haven't seen any emotion from Loomis, right? And now that they were together in the ring, like he was showing that he was interested in her too, which I thought was very.
He had those flashes.
He had those flashes. And then I just thought at the end when he starts carrying her away and she does the corny smile and I laughed. I popped. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. And, Beth Phoenix is like, flipping out and stuff. And she's, hey, yeah, I got it. It worked. Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it was very funny.
It shows that tongue in cheek can work when you do it right. It's still in pro wrestling, right? And I know exactly what song Indy Hartwell was singing. And it was that, let's talk about Dexter Loomis. Let's talk about Dex. Yeah, I knew that was gonna get a pop, so I had to do that one.
Oh, brutal! That was hilariously horrible. I got to give you all the credit in the world, but also the proverbial stick it. A couple more things. There aren't really a lot of matches because, to be honest with you, the only match that I really wanted to talk about a ton was that Kushida match. I thought it was fantastic.
Very good.
I'd throw that in the conversation as a dark horse for match of the week for me. I loved it that much. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. But outside of that, MSK versus Dane and Drake, it was fine. I did like the stuff after the match, though, Joe, and I don't know if that was what you were getting to, but I'll let you take the handle on that one.
Well, the stuff after the match was good. One thing I wanted to say, obviously the crowd is small. MSK was getting booed in that match. That crowd was behind Maverick and Dane there. Not saying like I'm not, MSK is going to be big stars for for a long time, but I just thought that was like, they're getting.
I think
they're getting kind of booed a little bit.
I think that's more of a credit to Dane and Drake because they've been built to be that lovable team. Like the only comparison I could make is like if you threw them out there against Brazongo, you would probably get the same thing just because they're this established, loved team. So I did notice that. And if it happens next week, I might have a little more to say on it. But I think that was. I don't know why it would be by design, but it has to be by design in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah, I just thought
why would you want them to go out there against a babyface team? And I would at least have to assume that Triple H or Shawn Michaels or whoever's in the back would know that would happen.
Yeah,
right.
Well, especially when you decided to make number one contenders baby faces to go with other baby faces, and the number one contenders are just more established in the NXT brand. There's more loyalty towards Killian Dane based on what he's done, and the Drake Maverick story of how he even got the contract just made him a beloved star. Like it's hard to not like Drake. Like Drake Maverick really has to do some he has to do something worse than what Dean Ambrose did on the day that Roman Reigns got leukemia. Something worse than that just to get through. He really does. And MSK, I think, they're not everyone's cup of tea. Like, let's be honest. They're great. I enjoy them. But they cannot be everyone's cup of tea. I can see people saying, you know what? They're just not for me. And here's the thing. If you put MSK against the Revival in the thing, there's going to be a lot of people that are saying, I want more Revival. I want less MSK. I get that. But what's awesome
about a style that's open for critique.
What's awesome about MSK is that they're fresh, they're innovative, and what they do, they're very energetic. So no matter what match they're in, they make you just want to jump up your seat. And they're kind of like that good rock song where they're like, we're going to bump our heads. We're going to get involved in it. They get you invested regardless of liking or hating them. They make you give a, you know what? And that is what's going to make them a better tag team than almost any other tag team, is that give a factor.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
As far as go ahead. Yeah, with the
No worries. I was just gonna give Ed a shout. Finally, Kushida getting his title run. I don't know anybody who wasn't clamoring for something like this, right? And not that they've done a bad job with him, especially over the last 6 months, where again, I feel like you could say a lot of the same things about Swerve, except for he didn't turn heel. But you see a new aggression, you see a new level behind Kushida that frankly, like if you thought he was hard hitting before, that guy's hitting hard right now, for lack of a better way to put it. Cull hopping in and agreeing with you, Parrish. MSK seems to be like the Young Bucks turned up to 11. Yep. And again, for better or for worse, there are a lot of Young Bucks matches that I like. They perhaps aren't my favorite tag team, and I can understand where that MSK comparison would come in as well. Joe, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just want to make sure that if we're encouraging people to hop in the comments, that we're making sure we shout them out every chance we get. So start your point, and to apologize, I'll even give you the big screen here.
Oh, my God. Thank you. I feel honored. No, I was going to say, as far as after the match, I like Imperium. Obviously, I know they're probably not going to be with Walter. It'll be these three guys, and it looked like maybe they were interested in recruiting Dane before they took him out a little bit. I don't know. I'm in on that. I'm just so is Wolf like the lead? Like, is he the guy in charge now of the three? It seemed like they were.
That's my guess.
It seemed like they were taking orders. I do like the fact that they didn't Daba Kato the situation and pretend that there was no history between Wolf and Dane. Exactly.
Like, they didn't do a ton with it, but even
that would be insanity.
Yes.
Bada boom.
One thing I did notice though is after they got out of the ring, Eichner and Bartel, they kind of gave each other a look. Wolf was in the front.
Yeah.
Wolf was in the front, and he was already walking up the ramp. And it was a very deliberate camera shot, and it had Bartel, and you could see he like looked at Eichner and was like, nah. Like they kind of just
well,
were like,
and here's another one because I wanted to touch on it with the Thatcher point. I still think Thatcher is what Ed is saying, so Ed still thinks Thatcher ends up in Imperium. I got that vibe, or I got the vibe that there was going to be that turn soon from that Ciampa Thatcher promo, and I think that they also did a very good job of still, like, I guess, teasing tension. You know, I hate the cliche, but it does apply here, and that, you know, Tommaso Ciampa, he's sitting down, he's explaining why he still wants to go after MSK, and MSK, we're coming for you. And then he stands up and like runs out in an aggressive manner, and Thatcher just gives his Thatcher smile. So, you know, you don't know if he's up to something. And that's when professional wrestling is the best for me, is when you've got that intrigue. I completely agree. Maybe you see that happen. Maybe you see Imperium align themselves, and Bartel and Aichner specifically. Maybe they align themselves with Timothy Thatcher, and maybe you do have to have Alex Wolf align with, of all people, Killian Dane and Drake Maverick. Where Ciampa fits into that, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but there is a way to get there, and I definitely agree that there's a more likely than not chance that Thatcher still ends up with them.
Well, here's another interesting point and a takeaway that I had with that moment. Wolf may have been the first guy in the ring, but he was the only guy who didn't touch Killian Dane. And I think that's very, very telling, because I think that's probably where the Barth, just given the collection of, well, you're not doing anything to Alex Wolf, we're doing something, or to Killian Dane, we're doing something to him. And then you're acting like you're in charge. Who are you? Who do you think you? I think that's exactly where it is. And I think that's going to be a great little narrative now within Imperium, because again, we go back to WWE not liking to keep things together. We could see a chink in the armor of Imperium, or a possible replacement, because we all know that Walter's never going to be a mainstay in the United States. He's going to be a special attraction. So they need somebody. If they're going to have these guys in the United States, they're going to have to have somebody be the face of Imperium there. And
Tim Thatcher is a beautiful face for it.
Well, I mean, let's face it. He can talk, he can wrestle, and he fits the Imperium mold. So it's not against anything. Like, it's not really weird to think. We wouldn't have put it together because we just like the entities separate, but we don't realize that together they're actually pretty good.
I don't disagree with you at all. If there's anything else that you gentlemen would like to shout out about from tonight's episode of NXT, please feel more than free to, because I've only got one more point to make. We do have to touch that there were a couple of recaps, both for the weekend as a whole, and then Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Too many names. I've got to get better with that. It's one of my goals list things, is don't fuck up a name as much as I do. You got the recap for Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. I believe it's the same one that they put online earlier in the day, but say la vie if it wasn't. There was a pretty great recap. It was your standard WWE fare. If they moved into the movie trailer business, they'd still make billions. I stand by that. Leon versus Swerve, we touched on. Zoe Stark, we touched on. The main event, we touched on. The only thing, and it was only
Roderick Strong.
Roderick Strong.
And that was what I had there too. And it was only briefly touched on. They sort of segged it in there sneakily throughout the show, but a potential Roderick Strong retirement. I don't know how I feel about that personally. Just anybody potentially floating that makes me sad, but it is professional wrestling. I don't believe in retirement one bit. Especially since Shawn Michaels was the only guy who had me believing. And not only did he unretire, he unretired in the worst possible way.
Mark Henry, bro. Mark Henry. Best fake retirement ever.
That's an all-time moment.
Shawn's was the worst fake retirement ever, I guess, in the long run. But it was the best real retirement ever.
I lost my smile.
I'm talking the second one. I'm talking when he came back for that Saudi Arabia money.
Oh yeah, we don't
like
talk
that
about
was a bad one. I just
We don't
pretend it
talk
never
about that.
happened.
Yeah, exactly. We don't talk about it. One thing that I did, I kind of
Voldemort.
when they showed Roddy and Marina walking in earlier on in the show, my brain automatically went to, oh, are they going to be an on-screen couple now? Like that's what I thought first, and I was like, oh, I'm intrigued by that. Like I would like to see how that goes. And then the next time we saw them, he was saying he was done and giving the papers to Regal. So I was like, oh, I just when I first saw him, I was like, oh, I'd be in to see how that plays out. Them a power couple or however on screen, but I'd
have to think so. I'd have to think that they're going to go that route anyways,
right?
When and if he eventually comes back from retirement.
The chatter was, does he go to Raw or SmackDown, or is this part of a bigger angle where he just stays down there, but something else happens? You know what I mean?
Well, and I've heard a lot of people suggest 205 Live, which for me, I would be pretty frustrated by, just on the fact that he has been a personal favorite of mine for a long, long time. His Ring of Honor run was fantastic. Big Roddy Strong guy. The more I can get him on my screens, the better. And selfishly, I just don't watch 205 Live as often as I should, and probably as often as most wrestling fans should. I would see less Roddy. Therefore, it is a detriment to me. And if I start watching more professional wrestling, it's a detriment to my family life and mental sanity. So
Well, here's a good...
I'll let you get the final word on Roddy Strong. We've got a question in the chat that we're going to go to as our minute or less segment, and then we're going to plug our shit as we close it out on Love Wrestling Reacts.
I'm not touching that one. But the one thing I thought was very telling on the Roddy Strong thing was that William Regal acknowledged that he was, a dick in Undisputed Era.
Pain in the ass.
He let bygones be bygones, and he said, "You are a true professional. You're welcome back anytime," which means that I think there has to be a bigger thing in sight. Like, this is not like he never retired. He just gave papers. That could just been saying, I'm done with NXT. That's not saying I'm done with wrestling. So we don't know necessarily about a retirement. I think that's reading into it a little too much, to be honest. But what we do know is that Roderick Strong and Marina Shafir for the first time on screen together, which I like, because one of Roddy's biggest weaknesses is his mic skills. I think that's clear. But one of his biggest attributes is that he's one of the best inside the ring. So it's really cool to see if maybe Marina can be more of a mouthpiece for him, or at least...
Fair point.
At least be what, like every good... Like, Miz has his wife. Karrion Kross has his girlfriend. We've seen so many of these couples work, and I think this is one that's going to work. Plus, it gives Roderick Strong a different direction where he doesn't have to get tied up in the middle. Like he's the child that nobody wants between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly.
That's a fair point. I hope Roddy ends up on SmackDown, says Ed Fries 2002. That, and it's still probably growing up with the SmackDown 6 for me. But I've always seen SmackDown as more of like the wrestling show, for lack of a better way to put it. Yeah, and
with his history with Daniel Bryan, it makes a lot of sense.
I was just gonna say, I'll watch Roddy and Daniel Bryan all day.
Heck yes, friends. Now, like I mentioned, I want to touch on our minute or less segment. So, Parrish, I'll let you kick this one off. Joe, I'll give you a couple of extra seconds, but it means you're going to go a little longer because you're going to start to plug where people can find you after you answer. Parrish, which championship do you think Pete Dunne is looking to go toward? I think I'd rather see Dunne versus Gargano, says Call2K.
Well, yeah, because we know that's guaranteed to be money. But here's the thing. You put him in with Gargano, you're totally blocking Bronson Reed, who I think is on fire right now. Not to mention, Santos Escobar makes a lot of sense in that North America title picture. So I think there's that natural progression. Pete Dunne is a main event guy. He's proven that time in and time out, whether it's the UK scene or whether it's NXT. So I think it's that title. And just to get it out of the way, Chris Parrish on Twitter, Chris.Parrish on Instagram, the Chris Parrish.
Oh, jumping the gun. Jumping the gun, Parrish. What is this?
I know that
I qualified all of that. I even had Joe, I'm sure, like drink an extra glass of water or prepare himself for the elongated speech he was going to have to give. And
I'm giving you guys your time. I'm giving you guys your time. You always finish with me. I'm going to give it to you guys.
Joe, it's not
you
that I'm
guys.
disappointed to go to you now. I'm just disappointed it has to be like this.
It's okay.
I'm not saying
Okay.
bye. I just want to hear you guys.
All right. Joe, your thoughts on where people can find you
One
online.
thing nice.
Yeah. I agree with Parrish when he says that Pete Dunne is a main eventer. I would love Pete Dunne to be champion now. So because I'm a huge fan of Pete Dunne, I would love to see him go up to the NXT championship picture, but I don't see anybody beating Cross for a while. So I think Dunne would have a better chance of getting gold if he went for the North American title against Gargano and kind of hold that. He's the, one of the longest reigning UK champions of all time. And why not have a good North American run? And then I think he's already there, but then he can work, move up to the main championships. That's my opinion on that, but that's just strictly because I want Pete Dunne to be champion. So, but you can find me on, it is at Joseph _Poulin Jr. on the Twitter, right there. You can also catch me on Love Wrestling during, doing some of these reacts. We have another episode of The War Report. Me and my buddy Matt will be dropping on Thursday with a full NXT review and AEW review from their show tomorrow night. And then I'm trying to get involved and be on as much stuff as you'll let me, Spencer. So that's basically, you can find me on Love Wrestling CA. That's where you can find me.
Bingo, bango. You saved me a full-on plug. But as Joe said, as Parrish said as well, you can find the three of us as well as a lot of great content contributors right here on Love Wrestling CA. Whether you're watching on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, you've somehow found us on some illegal streaming site, which thank you if you've done that. It's kind of a compliment if we're getting torrented at this point. We say to
You went a different way than I was, so you're good.
But as he said, as Joe and Parrish both have mentioned throughout the show, you can find us on any social media platforms at Love Wrestling CA. We do have a couple of specific goals we're looking to hit. We reached the top 10 in Canadian podcasts a couple of weeks ago. We want to hit number 1. If you had to rate this podcast.com/Love Wrestling CA, not only will you help us in that all-important Apple algorithm, but you'll help donate 25 cents towards Meals on Wheels. That is what RateThisPodcast.com is doing throughout April. It's a great cause. I know I can speak for the great work that Meals on Wheels does. My dad's volunteered for them for a number of years, and they really, really do help out in their respective communities, whether you're in Edmonton or whether you're somewhere else that they are lucky enough to be based. Please make sure you check them out, even if it's not through RateThisPodcast.com. They're doing some great work. The other thing we would really love is we just became Twitch affiliates a couple of days ago. So if you want to give us a subscription, a follow, whatever it may be, however you choose to support, we always appreciate it. But anything that we do make on the subscription end goes right back into the contributors' pockets, right back into doing cool stuff on Love Wrestling that we bring right back to you. And last but not least, we've got a couple of cool things coming up on the shop end of things. Both our collaboration t-shirt with Sea of Dead is coming out next week. Those should start to ship for pre-orders. And we just got our Love Wrestling Sunday brunch mugs in. So Joe and Parrish, you guys should have those sooner rather than later. And hopefully you guys do too if you were watching here on Love Wrestling. Myself, you can find me at Spenny Love on Twitter. Other than that, though, just find me on Love Wrestling CA. It's where all my content comes, whether it's audio, visual, written, whatever it may be. It will be coming there because there's only one place that I love to celebrate positivity in professional wrestling, and it is right here on Love Wrestling. However, what we like to do is spread that love, and what we're going to do if you guys are tuned in on Twitch is we're going to be rating a guy I'm also lucky to consider well played. We got to get like we got to get an emote or something like that going because I think that's fantastic. But we're going to rate a good friend of mine, Joel Pearl. He's playing some Super Mario 64 and doing some great work not only on his own channel but for Fightful. So I am going to hit the start raid button. If you guys are watching on the other two platforms that we provide this on, you guys are going to hear our music here in a couple of seconds. Once again, for JPJ, for Chris Parrish, thank you guys for tuning in to Love Wrestling Reacts. We're going to see you guys shortly.